They sit across from each other every evening at the same kitchen table. 2 chairs. 2 bowls of soup. And silence. Not the kind of silence that comes from peace, but the kind that slowly grows in the space where conversations used to live. You'd think that after 30, maybe 40 years of marriage, the bond would grow deeper. And in some ways, it does. You know each other's habits, routines, and rhythms like the back of your hand. But one day, without even realizing it, you look across the table and feel distant. Like you're living next to someone, but not really with them. Not because they did anything wrong. Not because there was a fight. But because, somewhere along the way, the conversation stopped feeling safe. The laughter quieted. And the sharing faded. Have you ever felt that? That strange moment where you want to say something, anything, but the words just sit in your throat unspoken, unneeded? Here's the question we're exploring today. Why do so many wives, after years of shared life, begin to carry a quiet, hidden resentment toward their husbands? What changed? And more importantly, can anything be done to bring the 2 chairs closer again? This video is not about blame. It's not about pointing fingers. It's about understanding the silent heartbreak that lives in so many long-term marriages. And how, with small and simple shifts, healing is still possible even after decades. If any part of this already feels personal to you, you're not alone. So many women feel this. And so many men have no idea it's even happening. If this message touches something in you, please take a moment to like this video. It tells the platform this story matters. Share it with someone who might need to hear these words. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe, because every week, we explore the quiet truths that live in the corners of everyday life. Especially for those of us walking through the second half of it. Now, let's begin. Let's step inside the story behind the silence. Reason number 1, taken for granted, the weight of being unnoticed. It wasn't the long hours in the kitchen that wore Margaret down. Nor the early mornings, nor the never-ending cycle of cooking, cleaning, folding, fixing. What wore her down? Was the silence that followed all she did? For 35 years, she gave quietly, consistently. She built a life with her hands, her care, her time. She never complained. Never asked for much. But in the quiet corners of her heart, she longed for something so simple. To be noticed. Not in a grand gesture. Not in the form of a gift or a bouquet. Just in the gentle recognition that her efforts mattered. Maybe a thank you for dinner. Maybe you've done a lot today. Sit down. Let me handle the rest. Maybe just a look, a genuine one that said, I see you. But the days passed, and those moments never came. He came home, took off his shoes, turned on the news, and sat. She served the meal. He ate. And with each meal, something inside her faded a little more. You see, many women don't fall out of love in sudden heartbreaks. They fade out quietly, through years of being overlooked. Not unloved, necessarily, but unseen. We often think love dies with betrayal or cruelty. But more often, it dies in routine. In the small, repeated dismissals. In the assumption that she'll always be there, always do it, always endure. And when care turns into obligation. When love becomes expectation. The soul begins to shrink. Margaret didn't want diamonds. She wanted to be asked, "How was your day?" To be looked at like a woman still worth listening to. But instead, she became furniture in the home she helped build, necessary, but silent. There is a unique sorrow in being present every day. And yet invisible. And the tragedy? He didn't even know she felt this way. Because she never told him. And he never asked. Let me ask you, did this feel familiar? If even a part of Margaret's story echoes in your own life, comment 1 below. If it doesn't, comment 0 and share your own perspective. Because this isn't about blame. It's about opening a door to conversation. Sometimes, the biggest act of love is simply to say, I see you. I hear you. And I'm sorry for all the times I didn't. It's not too late. But it does begin with noticing the things we've stopped seeing. Reason number 2, emotional disconnection, when silence replaces presence. It's not that he doesn't care. It's that he stopped showing up. Not physically. He still comes home. Still eats dinner. Still sleeps in the same bed. But he's not there. Not in the room where her emotions live. Not in the moments when she needs more than just routine. In the early years, she could talk to him about anything: fears, dreams, frustrations, even things that didn't make sense. And he would listen. Sometimes he'd smile. Sometimes he'd laugh. And that was enough. But somewhere along the way, his responses changed. Not mean. Not cruel. Just distant. Now, when she opens her heart, he nods, but his eyes drift. He says, "You worry too much." Or "Just let it go." Or worse, he says nothing at all. And that nothing hurts more than any argument ever could. Because silence, in a marriage, is never neutral. It either protects, or it isolates. And for her, it became the space where she stood alone, talking into the void. What she needed wasn't a solution. She wasn't asking him to fix anything. She just wanted him to be there, really there. To lean in. To stay curious. To hold space for her feelings without trying to erase them. But many men were taught to solve, not sit. To fix, not feel. And so they retreat, thinking their silence is keeping the peace. But for her, peace without presence feels like abandonment. And over time, something inside her begins to close. She talks less. Shares less. Until one day, she stops reaching out altogether, not in anger, but in quiet resignation. Have you ever experienced that? A moment when your words bounced off the walls instead of landing in someone's heart? If this story echoes something in you, comment 1 below. If not, comment 0 and let's keep the conversation honest, because all stories matter. Marriage doesn't die with shouting. It dies with silence that no one dares to name. But it doesn't have to stay that way. Sometimes, all it takes is this. To pause. To turn toward each other again. And to say, not with fear, but with care. I don't need you to fix me. I just need you to hear me. And that can be the first real conversation in years. Reason number 3, she changed. He didn't. There's a moment that quietly arrives in many marriages. It doesn't come with drama or slamming doors. It comes with silence. A strange distance. A question that lives in the heart but is rarely spoken aloud. How did we end up so far apart, when we've walked the same path for so long? When the children move out and the house grows still, many women begin to wake up to something they hadn't noticed before. They've spent decades taking care of others, husbands, children, aging parents. Now, for the first time in years, the noise is gone. And in that silence, they start hearing themselves again. She picks up a book. She signs up for a class. She wants to walk more. Talk more. Learn something new. She begins to rediscover who she is, beyond the roles she's played. But when she turns to share this new energy with the man beside her, she finds he's still in the same place he's always been. Remote in hand. TV on. Coffee with the same friends. Same habits. Same jokes. Same small talk. He hasn't changed. And once, that sameness felt comforting. But now, it feels suffocating. She wants to explore. He wants routine. She wants conversation. He wants quiet. She begins to feel like a traveler living with someone who never left the village. And slowly, painfully, the marriage becomes a space where growth happens alone. Two people still under the same roof, but living on different emotional timelines. The danger here isn't conflict. It's disconnection. Because when one partner evolves and the other stays still, the love between them begins to stretch. And if no one reaches across the gap, eventually, it breaks. The saddest part? He might not even know it's happening. To him, life feels fine. Predictable. Safe. But to her, it feels like emotional starvation. And she begins to ask herself, is this all there is left for me? Not because she wants to leave, but because she's desperate to feel alive again. Have you ever felt that quiet pull away from someone you love, not because of anger, but because you're growing in opposite directions? If this speaks to you, comment 1 below. If not, comment 0 and share your perspective, because every journey through love is different, and all of them are worth hearing. Sometimes, the most dangerous thing in a relationship isn't what we fight about, but what we stop growing toward. And maybe the bravest thing you can say to your partner is, I'm changing. I'd like you to come with me. Reason number 4, lack of shared responsibility. When you're young, housework doesn't feel like a burden. You move quickly. You carry laundry baskets like they're feathers. You bend, lift, wipe, wash, without giving it much thought. But the years have their way of speaking. The knees begin to ache when you climb stairs. Your hands tremble a little when you lift a pot off the stove. Your back reminds you of its limits every time you bend over the laundry basket. And what hurts most is not the fatigue. It's the fact that no one seems to notice you're tired. Not once did he ask, how are you holding up today? Not once did he offer, let me do the dishes tonight. Not once did he stand up and say, you rest, I've got this. The home becomes a one-woman operation. The kitchen is her domain. The laundry, the broom, the garbage bin all carry her invisible name. She doesn't need him to do it all. She just needs to feel like he wants to help. Sometimes, love looks like this. A man picking up a dish towel without being asked. Folding one towel. Watering one thirsty plant. Taking a silent look around the room and thinking, what does she usually take care of, and can I take care of it today? It's not about skill. It's about presence. About noticing. Because when every task becomes expected, when every effort is taken for granted, it sends a quiet message. You're alone in this. And the truth is, she's been carrying that weight, quietly, for years. She doesn't want to nag. She doesn't want to fight. She doesn't want to explain what's obvious. She just wants someone to see the crumbs on the floor, the overflowing trash, the pile of dishes, and act. Not because she asked, but because he cared. When a woman has to ask to be helped, it means she's already had to swallow her disappointment more than once. And when she stops asking altogether, that's not peace. That's surrender. Have you ever seen that look in someone's eyes? The quiet resignation of a woman who no longer expects to be supported? If this resonated with you, comment 1 below. If it didn't, comment 0 and share your perspective. Because maybe your story will help someone else understand what their partner has never said out loud. Love isn't just in the vows we made. It's in the quiet, ordinary choice to say, you've carried enough today. Let me carry a little, too. Reason number 5, no longer loved as a woman. She doesn't say it out loud. But sometimes, late at night, she wonders, do I still matter to him as a woman? Or am I just someone he lives with? When she was younger, he used to reach for her hand in the dark. He used to call her beautiful, sometimes clumsily, sometimes shyly, but it was there. He used to touch her back gently as he walked by. Lean in. Whisper something silly. Laugh with her over nothing. Now, the touches are fewer. The compliments are gone. And when they pass each other in the hallway, it's like walking by furniture. He still loves her, she tells herself. But she no longer feels it. And that difference cuts deeper than most realize. Because love isn't just about staying. It's about seeing. It's about reminding the person beside you that they still spark something in you even after all these years. She doesn't expect candlelit dinners. She doesn't want grand declarations. But every once in a while, she wants to feel like she's more than the wife. She wants to feel desired. Not out of obligation, but because someone still sees her as a woman with a heart that longs, with hands that ache for warmth, with eyes that still look for meaning. Somewhere along the line, many men fall into the belief that romance belongs to the beginning. That once you've said I do, you never have to say, you're beautiful again. But for her, those words don't age. They matter just as much, if not more, when her hair begins to gray, when her body begins to slow, when her eyes carry stories few ever stop to read. What hurts isn't growing old. What hurts is feeling unseen while growing older next to someone who once knew how to look. And no, she won't beg for it. She won't ask to be kissed. She won't request a compliment. But in her silence, there's a quiet plea. Please, don't stop loving me like I'm still worth loving. Have you ever felt that kind of loneliness? The kind that doesn't come from being alone, but from being invisible beside someone you love? If this spoke to you, comment 1 below. If not, comment 0 and share your truth. Your story might be the one that opens someone else's eyes. Because in the end, we don't fall out of love all at once. We just stop reaching. Stop noticing. Stop choosing each other day by ordinary day. But maybe tonight, you look again and say softly, you're still beautiful. And I'm still looking. When silence speaks, will you listen? Not every woman carries resentment. Some wives still smile, still cook, still talk, because they've made peace with the silence. But for others, the silence is the message. When she stops arguing, when she no longer asks for help, when she stops cooking your favorite dish, it's not because she stopped loving you. It's because she's tired of loving alone. This isn't about blame. It's about awakening. A gentle truth, love does not die from one wound. It dies from neglect. But there's good news here. Because if neglect can weaken a bond, then presence, real, daily presence, can rebuild it. So what can you do, starting today? First, listen without fixing. When she speaks, don't search for answers. Search for understanding. Look her in the eye. Let her finish. Don't defend. Just hear her. Second, act without being asked. Fold the blanket. Wash the cup. Turn off the TV and say, tell me about your day. These are not chores. These are acts of love. Third, bring back the small things. One compliment. One gentle touch. A kiss on the forehead. Not because she needs it to survive, but because she deserves it to feel alive. Fourth, learn to love again. Not as who you were when you married, but as who you both are now, older, wiser, softer. And finally, if you've never said I'm sorry, maybe now is the time. Not because you're wrong, but because it tells her, I see where I stopped showing up. And I want to try again. Marriage isn't where love ends. It's where love evolves. And if you've made it this far in the video, thank you. That means you care. That means you're listening. And maybe, tonight is the night you hold her hand a little longer. Not because you have to, but because you want to. If any of this spoke to you, leave a comment. And if you believe someone else needs to hear this, share it. Because the silence in someone's home might just be waiting for one brave voice to break it with love.